Committee for the City of Hudson. We're meeting on Monday, April 14th, 2025. So calling the meeting to order, and first item of business, I'll do the roll call. Our City Council representatives, Sarah Brook.
Here.
And Mike Kennedy.
Here.
Thank you. And my name is Joy Knudsen. I am the chair of this committee. So we have all of our elected officials present. I'd like to also introduce our professional staff that's here with us tonight. To my left is Aaron McPhee Anderson, who is the city engineer. And to my right is Mike Mraz, who is the Public Works and Parks Director. And to his right over here is the woman behind the throne, right? Deb Andrews, who is the executive assistant in the Parks Department, Public Works and Parks. So let's move ahead with the reading of the minutes. Any comments, suggestions, or changes from anyone?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Very good. Minutes are accepted. Now we have a chance now for any comments from citizens, but no one is present tonight, so we'll move on. People are always welcome to come and share their thoughts or ideas or concerns about things that relate to this committee that they see in their neighborhood or in the city limit. But tonight we will move into new business. And the first item, 5A, is discussion and possible action to approve plans for the 2025 street maintenance project. And Aaron McPhee Anderson will lead our discussion.
So the engineering department has been working on getting out another set of plans for this year. So we have the street maintenance project, which includes crack filling, seal coating, and I guess fog sealing within the city limits. So these are on roads. This is preventative maintenance. So we are kind of tackling roads that have maybe been semi-recently paved or in a fairly decent condition where the seal coat makes a lot of sense to preserve the pavement. So we kind of in general approved the $350,000 amount at previous kind of meetings talking about the 2025 infrastructure CIP. So now we're just bringing forward a draft set of plans with the proposed project areas and looking to just get approval for that. We have a little more finalization to do on the plans and specifications, but then hoping to get the plan approval to council, fairly soon.
Okay.
And out to bid.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions or comments on the streets that have been chosen? This is done by our professional staff using the PASER ratings, et cetera. Yep. And also, as you pointed out, I know that has been a decision that's been made in the last few years that even though a street appears quite new and is quite new, it needs a certain amount of maintenance. Just like you buy a new car, you do everything you can to take care of it at the beginning to ensure a longer life. So yep. That is why some of these have fairly recently been newly paved, but it's an upkeep issue.
Yes.
So
yep.
Do any of the council members have questions or concerns for that?
Move to approve plans for the 2025 street maintenance project.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the 2025 street maintenance project as laid out here in our agenda. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. We've accepted those plans. Thank you very much. Then the next item is discussion and possible action on the 2025 capital improvement plan, which we often refer to as the CIP, and that has been laid out, planned spending that was laid out by the full council earlier, and now we're just executing how that money will be spent.
Yep.
So go ahead. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, so we've kind of gone through a few projects have been bid that were already approved in the 2025 CIP, and we have been getting really good bid prices this year so far. So we actually have a little bit of extra monies remaining based on the lower bid prices essentially. And so that comes out to approximately $400,000 remaining in the 2025 CIP. And so we just wanted to discuss how we want to use that money, if we want to use it this year, if we want to kind of roll it into next year. So we just thought about some alternatives that kind of fit within the budget, but could also be reasonably bid this year. So projects that we feel comfortable doing without like getting a geotech and borings done, or, pretty simple to put the plan sheets together. So that's kind of how we came, and then just other items we've been discussing. So the first item is doing a mill and overlay on two kind of main collector roads. So Carmichael Road, just north of 94, and there's a map attached if you want to see the project limits. So kind of that stretch, it's almost a Band-Aid approach, but it's trying to limit the amount of funds being spent right now. I guess further on, as a project update, we'll kind of be talking about Exit 2. And so this is trying to get by probably hopefully another 10 years or so. So recommending a mill and overlay. If we were thinking like, oh, this wants to be here for a long time, maybe we would do something else. But since the Exit 2 project might be coming along, we feel like we're not going to be able to get by without doing anything probably because it's getting really bad. So that's essentially from Cooley to kind of the Hudson Physicians building that was just built. And then since that didn't really get to the 400, another stretch that has kind of been on our radar on Vine Street just to the east of Carmichael. So there's kind of a little stretch there within city limits that would be nice just to kind of improve that. So that's one option that fits for about $350, that's $1,000, sorry. Then another one, which we've kind of talked about, is the Malibu Drive pavement replacement. So that would just, that's also in the map. It's kind of a, almost feels like a private driveway, but there's a few houses along there. It's in very poor condition. So we would just plan to kind of rip the pavement off, recompact, and put new pavement down. That would be $225,000. And then the 6th Street stairs replacement, we have been talking about that. I think we have another, we're gonna discuss it in a little more detail in another agenda item. So I don't know if we'll have to pause making a decision here, but we did reach out to a consultant to kind of put together a quote for design, looking at the stairs. And they, based on the condition, are recommending that it might need to be fully replaced, so that would be about $200,000. And then kind of the fourth option would be to roll over the extra money to 2026, and maybe we just add on to one of the projects we are planning next year, or can do another project next year as well. So, any discussion, or do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so just to remind everyone, next year's project is going to be a large mill and overlay project with various streets being redone. Are there any reclaims as well as part of that project that you recall?
Depending, we did kind of identify maybe like 17th and Laurel.
Okay.
Or some combination that would potentially be reclamation.
So the projects that, between the Carmichael, Malibu Drive project, those are very similar to what is going to be done next year. The one thing that we discussed internally as staff is it might make sense to try to do something this summer and take advantage of the low pricing that we have been getting, because who knows what's going to happen next summer. So that's also something to consider too. Because the easiest thing to do is let's just roll it through. We'll just have a much bigger mill and overlay project next year. But something happens and pricing comes back where it used to be, then we can't do as much. So a couple of things to consider. And then in regard to the 6th Street stairs, because of the damage that was caused due to the erosion from stormwater, we could take money from the stormwater utility to make repairs on those stairs and replace them. That's what the money is there for. Similar to kind of, not that it was stairs, but just past Webster Park, when that whole bank eroded out and got exposed, we had to repair that pipe, so on and so forth. So very similar. We had a swale, concrete swale, it failed, all the water went underneath the steps, washed the steps out, so on and so forth. So I could make a very strong argument that those utility monies could be used there. So, we wouldn't have to take it out of the CIP. So that's kind of another caveat with the 6th Street stairs. So.
And there's plenty of money in the...
Yeah, we have about, I gave my report last, like around $650,000 in the stormwater utility account. And that's not including this year's budget monies that I don't spend on maintenance of ponds or, that type of thing. So, we'll have monies available.
So continuing that, I'm in favor of fixing the stairs. It's there. it's, we all know about Stillwater stairs. They kind of abandoned that, and everyone is, loves that. This doesn't get used quite that much, but I'd hate to just say, let's bury it and forget it, because some of our old traditional stuff in Hudson might just go away because it's a lot cheaper just to abandon it. That's got some history, and it's a neat access to downtown. But back to which budget it comes out of.
Yeah.
Who would make that final call? I mean, I suppose the city, but I
Finance and
mean,
council,
is that money, are we going to be regretting taking it from one or the other? If we keep it, because it was a stormwater incident,
Yeah.
then I'd almost suggest that would be our first starting point, or at least that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I totally echo that. That makes sense to me, and I've started to hear from runners in the downtown area who have been like, hey, it happened last summer, we haven't had it, what's going on? So I feel like the walkers, and it is a nice linkage up to more to help people get up to the hill area. So I absolutely want to see that on as a priority, and I think the stormwater makes sense since that's exactly what storms cause the damage.
Yeah, the stormwater utility count, it's far more restrictive than just a general CIP for street maintenance. Obviously, there's only certain projects where stormwater utility monies can be spent on. It has to be stormwater, related. So that would be a perfect project to utilize some funds on and free up those other funds that Aaron's talking about to actually go towards road improvements that it's much needed in the city.
So would you be enhancing a barrier or a wall at the top of the stairs so that water?
Yeah, we would
Or would you have a culverts or something that water would flow out
Yeah,
of?
we looked at the top of the steps as 6th Street comes down, there's just a flat kind of catch basin there. We would look at maybe doubling it up to capture more water, adding a higher maybe curb so that the water can't penetrate over the top and down the stairs, and divert it down to Walnut Street, which is not in the best shape either. But
No.
thinking of ways to not allow the water to get
Sure, so bring a modern approach to that as well.
Exactly.
To control the water, which is great, and I agree. I think we're all in agreement that the stairs are historic. They, like I said, provide a nice connection, Prospect Park and down, and especially we're really trying to discourage people from coming down the 3rd Street Laurel Hill.
Right.
Because of the speed and the traffic and so on moving through there. See people riding their bikes that are adults, but I think of the children that want to get downtown. They want to go to an ice cream shop or
Right.
something like that. And from those neighborhoods up in that area, how do they, what's the safest way to get down? So I would love to see those stairs restored. I think they probably get used more than we realize, they're kind of tucked away there.
Yeah.
So, and I do, if it is, you certainly know the stormwater utility inside and out, Mike. If you feel that's a legitimate
that's
expense,
eligible. Yeah, that would be eligible.
that does seem like a good option, and that is an agenda item down the road here a little bit under old business. So, how are you feeling, committee members, about the other options that are listed?
I'll go. Okay,
You
I'll go first this
you
time.
go, yes.
I personally would like to see the Malibu Drive. I believe the PACER rating on that is a 2.
I'm double checking the PACER
Okay.
ratings, but yeah, keep going, keep
Okay,
going.
I think it's
it's actually might be a 1, but.
Okay, okay. Okay, it might, okay. So folks, that's like almost a gravel road.
Yeah, we could return to gravel as an option. Just teasing.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
right,
Sarah, I'm
right.
sorry.
I think one of the struggles for people that live in the downtown district, and I work very hard to explain arterial roads and all of those things, and yet you see all of these other areas that are getting road improvements, and it just doesn't happen all that often in downtown because it's such extensive work to get them accomplished. And if we have the extra funds and we're thinking it's 200,000 to, or 225,000, and that's kind of a pre-bid, right? So
Yeah,
it could come
yeah.
back, it could come back higher, it could come back lower, but I'm going to just optimistically hope it's on that lower trajectory like we're seeing. So that I would heavily advocate for the Malibu Drive.
So Malibu Drive is a 1.
Okay.
There's Yep, there's a couple in the downtown area. So Malibu Drive, Walnut Street, 9th Street,
Yeah.
and then a couple blocks here and there, 1, 2, 3, just odds and ends. But those are kind of the three main ones, Walnut, 9th, and Malibu.
9th Street is the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that one was thinking 9 million or something.
Yeah, that one's pushing. Yeah, that one's
Big one.
probably
That's such a
6
big
to
job.
8 now. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay.
I have a question, and I know it's too early to tell, but am I correct that what we feel is excess funds is based off of the project on O'Neill Road, which we do have a bid on?
And 11th. 11th actually came under the
Yes.
engineer's estimate as well.
Thank you. I was wondering if there
Yep.
was excess, so you added
Yes.
those two
Yeah,
together?
yes.
Okay, thank you. So I was wondering if there was a possibility of surplus there, but
Oh,
you've
okay,
already
got
included
it.
it.
Yeah, we
Thank
kind
you.
of included everything.
And
Yep.
at this point, the mill and overlay, let's say we did Carmichael Road and Vine Street, are those your typical estimates, or is that what you think this season of bidding is going to bring? Could that be under also?
It could potentially be under, yeah. I know we didn't go through it with a fine tooth comb per se, so it could be possible. Like if we look at the Malibu, again, maybe we could add the Vine Street mill and overlay, or do a combination of both, once we kind of look at it in more detail.
Okay. Thank you. I did wonder about
yeah.
11th Street, because I was pretty certain we were going to
Yeah.
have, so in other words, the city of Hudson, we do have a grant
Yep.
that's helping pay for the 11th Street project, and our contribution will be able to be less because the project price is lower.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So we still get that full grant, so.
Well,
for our
actually,
content,
I guess it's a
that's
little
probably an
confusing,
update we can
but.
talk. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
during the update.
yeah.
Sorry to divert. Okay, Mike, any comments?
I agree with that, because I drove around and looked at that, and yeah, that's, it's sort of like whenever we talk about roads, I mean, we all know that we could, you guys have your ratings and your, as you refer to them, professional staff. We could either do that or take 3 hours deciding which road we think is the worst. I mean, if we had all the money in the world, it would make it a lot easier, wouldn't it? But that being said, I agree with the Malibu, and then kind of back to what you said, the whole Carmichael, and whether it be the freeway crossing or the bridge there, or new development that's been on the docket a few times. Not that you can't improve a road when there's new development, but that I kind of put that down one notch, just because what if something does pop with that bridge or the new development? But again, and I guess if we looked at doing Malibu and we kind of have the stairs earmarked out of a different account, I guess it comes to, do we roll whatever's remaining over, or do we try to drain that, use it or lose it type thing? And could you bid this together? I know it's two completely different projects, but a linear square feet, we're gonna do Malibu, and as much as the Carmichael area, can we get rid of some bad parts of Carmichael? Maybe not the whole thing.
You could probably look at doing that Vine east of Carmichael leg.
That would
short,
probably fit in.
and that one needs it.
Yeah.
And that one won't be in jeopardy of any type of future improvements. I mean, that's
True, yeah.
And we aren't doing any other mill and overlay this year,
No.
but next year we are.
Next year's a large
So, Aaron, how do you feel about, you're talking about that stretch on Carmichael deteriorating? If we waited 12 months next year and included that in our bigger project?
Yeah, we
I
could
mean, are we in
potentially do
danger
that.
of, I know that at a certain point, mill and overlay isn't adequate
Yeah.
maintenance. You have to do something more. Do you think, I mean, it's hard to
Well,
judge.
it's already kind of
but-
at that point where it
Is it?
potentially shouldn't be
Yeah.
mill and overlaid, but
Okay.
it was,
It's
like
gonna-
I said, kind of the Band-Aid
Band-Aid
approach
approach.
of like getting it by for
Sure.
a short amount of time.
Sure.
Otherwise, we probably would want to do like pavement reclamation, and look at more curb, some of the curbs in pretty bad condition, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a border right there, that little stub of red? I mean, is that?
Oh, yeah,
is
that's
that the
basically
city?
our city limits, yep.
Okay,
On Vine Street, you're
Yeah,
talking,
Right,
Fine.
okay,
east, past the
yeah.
Midwest Bank, and then the dog park and Anderson, or the Grandview Park. It's north
Is
of
the
it,
rest
correct?
is the rest of this decent? I mean,
It is much, yeah, I don't know do you know when did the county do like a UU project? I mean, I think it is a lot better, I don't.
yeah.
It's definitely better, so I don't think
So
we
they're not
could
gonna come
easily
in
tack
and-
on to
yeah.
their, project they're doing, I'm assuming.
Right. Because I think
don't
I
know
just
how
got here, it's before COVID, and I questioned why they didn't go all the way to the stoplights. And I got my answer, because it's not ours. So,
Yeah,
so they stopped
makes
where
sense.
they're, boom.
Yeah.
yeah, so I think
No,
it
that's a
looks
tricky
pretty
street
good.
that
Yeah.
way. It's definitely a tricky street and a busy street, so it obviously is, talk about arterial, very significant.
Yeah.
So if we don't do that Carmichael stretch this year, we might be looking at a bigger project that would cost more.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
Or
Depends.
could try to do the mill and overlay next year too.
Yeah.
I don't know how Mike probably has a bit better handle on the maintenance side, like,
Yeah, I mean, we spray patch a lot on it. Obviously, just kind of keep the, you know what stretch I'm talking about, kind
Yeah,
of just,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm just coming at it from, when you got 15,000 cars using that stretch every single day, and it's just like dodging potholes and ruts, and it's just like, how much longer can we keep doing without getting, I haven't gotten a phone call on it, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll just continue to spray patch it and maybe look at it next year, and if not, maybe we'll know more
yeah, it
about.
might depend on the winter, so.
Might
great-
know more
great for
about
a good
exit two,
winter.
or, yeah, our winter or future development, because a lot of times, you know, if a developer comes in and develops an adjacent parcel, they develop the adjacent street as well.
Yeah.
You know, for improvements for access in and out of their site, so that's one of those tricky ones.
Right.
Because we know it's a need, but you don't want to stick money into it, and then all of a sudden, 5 years down the road,
Right.
someone's coming in and they gotta blow it up, it's like, well, we just
Yeah.
wasted money, but
Right.
you
Right.
can't kind of keep it the way it is either. 'cause-
Right, and that section,
Yeah.
that section there is the future development that is hinging on exit two.
Exactly, so it
And
all
what's
kind of.
going to happen there, I mean, we've had several presentations at council
Mm-hmm.
with the property owners and ideas that they would like to bring forward, but it is a very busy street already to think about more curb cuts and so on. Okay, any further discussion? So if we were to go with the Malibu Drive, we'd be getting a bid, find out what that costs. And that would be a replacement, or is the term reclamation equal to replacement?
No, because we wouldn't, we would just kind of remove the pavement, and the reclamation is like grinding the pavement with the
This is-
gravel.
There's
It's
nothing
different.
redeemable here, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, basically.
So it's possible that that bid could be lower
Yep.
than, like we were optimistically thinking, which may give us some wiggle room to think about. Anyway, further discussion, or I don't know if anyone's ready to make a motion.
Do you need do you want a motion on this?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the extra funds from the 25 CAP, move to approve the Malibu Drive pavement replacement, and then the 6th Street stairs to explore stormwater.
We'll talk about that one later.
Okay, okay, hold that one. And the Vine Street Mill and Overlay. Okay, okay.
So you're moving that we go with item 2?
Item 2.5, well, a quarter of item 1.
If
the
possible,
Vine-
okay.
If
Sure,
possible,
Sure,
yeah.
okay,
I'm sure, I think that would work.
can pursue
Okay.
bidding.
I'll second.
Okay. Deb, are you clear on the motion?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, then that will be our approach this year. And again, we do feel fortunate that we do have, appears to have excess funds, or the bidding has been advantageous for us, that we have some additional funds that we can still utilize this year. So that is encouraging. Next item is under new business, item C, which is discussing trail maintenance. I had brought this topic as just something I wanted to talk about for a while, partly for our own information, but also for the public to understand about the trails that we do have in the city, how much we have, what it costs to put them in, what it costs to keep them up. And I just asked our Public Works Director, asked Mike to give us a report on that. So, thank you.
Yep. So we have 13 miles of recreational trails throughout the community. All of them are asphalt trails, so those are Lakefront Park, White Camp Park, along Carmichael, Crestview, Hanley, so on and so forth. So we have an annual maintenance budget in the CIP of $50,000. So that money can be used towards, crack filling, seal coating. We have used it in the past to replace a trail. So our most recent trail replacement project, we did one in Lakefront Park when Aaron was here, but previous to that, we did the stretch along Hagan Street across from the post office, basically from the 11th Street Bridge down to the new PD facility. And just to kind of give you an idea, that was about a $100,000 project. So that's kind of how I got my numbers when we're talking about trail reconstruction. I use the numbers on that, so it's probably a little bit more. But it kind of gives you a ballpark idea of how much it costs to replace a half a mile of trail. And so based on that, obviously a lot of people do call about our trail systems, about some of the needs there. I know the trail along Crestview, Carmichael, there's a trail connection behind the St. Croix County Government Center that's in very poor shape. So kind of going through, based on kind of my knowledge of the trails and which ones are in very, very poor condition, we're probably looking at about 2 miles total that need to be like replaced, whenever we have funds available, which comes out to about $400,000 to $500,000 by the time you factor in all the engineering plans, so on and so forth. So it kind of just gives you an idea of kind of the need that's there, and it might be worthwhile in the future CIP to maybe include or bump up some of those funds instead of going 50 up to 100, just so we can start knocking some of these out, just because multimodal transportation is becoming more and more popular. We do have individuals that use electronic wheelchairs to get around, go shopping, and just one of those things that as a community that's promoting that type of transportation, we need to start investing in some of the trails. And then the other caveat to that is, and the things that maybe we haven't done the best in the past, is maintaining the trails after they're in. So whether that is crack filling or doing some type of fog seal to just keep them in better shape for a longer period of time, similar to what we do for the road. So it is a little more complicated process, but just because you put a trail in doesn't mean you just can't turn a blind eye to it, similar to like your driveway, so on and so forth. So, and then in the map that I included in your packet, that gives you just kind of an idea of where they are. And then yellow highlights are the trails that we plow. So those are maintained and plowed during the winter time by the Public Works Department. So it's about $5,000 to $7,000 each winter that we spend on staff time to maintain the trails. And it's kind of a team effort, basically, on whoever gets done through their route the first, kind of hops in a pickup or the tool cat. Usually our lead mechanic will help with trail maintenance, our snow plowing trails, as long as something's not breaking down, which over the last couple of years hasn't. But just kind of gives you a general idea of kind of the process and how much it costs. It's about a 4 to 6 hour route right now. And I know, talking to Jim Weber, the previous chair with this committee, is one of the things that he discussed, and we probably should continue that discussion at some point in time, is the future responsibility of maintenance are just snow plowing of trails. Because right now we treat trails similarly to the way we treat sidewalks. So if it's adjacent to a private business or home, those are being maintained by that adjoining property, similar to a sidewalk. If the sidewalk's in front of your house, you're responsible for shoveling that sidewalk. Well, we've been putting in a lot of trails here recently. A lot of them are 8 to 10 feet wide, right? And that's just a lot to ask for a homeowner. And I know where I came from, when I came from Richmond, we plowed all the public trails. And so that might be something that we want to consider in the future doing, and taking that burden off our commercial districts, our residents that live along trails, something to consider. So.
Well, and with the 11th Street, so that's going to be a new trail that's
Yep.
going to be in there. And if I remember right, you said you were
Yep.
going to
You're
plow
gonna
that one too.
maintain that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you are usually able to do it the same day of the snow
Yep.
event?
Yep.
Unless
Yep.
it's really unusual situation?
Correct. And I mean, we have the equipment
That's
here,
fair.
and there are resources available. And Maverick, our assistant city engineer, offered. I don't know if that's changed since he's got his PE. Maybe he doesn't want to do that anymore. But even if we do them the next day, I mean, it's some, because we do get phone calls from time to time. This trail isn't plowed, specifically along Hanley. We have a lot of battles with them, and it's something that the city, a service that we can provide that, you know, it's easy for us to do. So, like I said, just something to consider in the future, because we are going to continue to put in trails and maintain them, and I mean, that's a main form of transportation around the city.
Well, and one thing that I had asked you prior to the meeting was about some of the trail network is within HOAs.
Yeah.
And that they maintain that, or they do the snow removal themselves.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
So there's private trails in like the Stone Pine subdivision or the Red Cedar Canyon subdivision, right? And there are agreements in place in the developer's agreement that kind of dictate who maintains them, who replaces them, so on and so forth. So there are trails that are considered private throughout the community that we don't help maintain, snowplow, replace, so on and so forth.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so this summer, we are not doing any trail maintenance, is that correct?
No, so the idea is that $50,000 that we have allocated to trail maintenance, we are rolling that over into the 2026 CIP to do a larger project, maybe a replacement. I know we've been talking internally as staff of kind of hitting
Identified
a bad area. So that's the idea right now.
Thank you. Good. Okay, so again, it's not a action item, but I think it's good for us to be thinking about, for the public to hear those pieces of information, for, you know, we're talking about it and thinking about it, because absolutely it's an important part of what people talk about is they want trail access
yeah.
for their children, their evening walk, their bike to work or bike for exercise. Those are all,
Yeah.
a lot of people using them, and we need to be aware of what it takes to keep up with them and keep them well maintained, and certainly make that commitment as we move forward. So thanks for that report, Mike. Next item under new business, discussing the stop sign at St. Croix Street and Bear Drive intersection. This is an item also that I asked to be on the agenda because I had several people ask me about that after the recent discussion about that intersection, whether even a stop sign was needed. We all heard from a lot of residents. They thought it was critical and that it's still a little bit dangerous in the neighborhood, but the stop sign helps. And so I had an individual ask me, thought maybe the neighbors could raise the money together, put in the kitty to raise money to help purchase something like this. And so the question was, what does it cost? But I think also, of course, we need to follow the municipal code and guidelines, and just professional advice on traffic control and public safety. And so I'd just like to have some input from the
Yeah.
two of you about what you think is best. And, you've got it included in our agenda with the cost of such an item, but is that the right thing to do? Again, I'll open that for your report.
Yep.
Thank you.
So the total cost to do one flashing LED stop sign is approximately $3,500. So that's purchasing the sign, the solar, the pole, the base. That doesn't include any staff time. So it kind of just gives you an idea, when this type of request comes in. So when Joy had first asked me about this, I got some numbers together. So these larger sign requests like this, they aren't accounted for when I do the budget every year. And so I know on my issue sheet I had roadway supplies and street signs at $11,900 remaining. A lot of that money is already kind of earmarked, accounted for as we progress throughout this
Sign.
summer, right?
Sure.
So it's not like we're not going to use that money for things that we have budgeted for and we will use throughout the summer. So that's kind of the hard part, is when some of these requests come in, whether it's, my trail is bad or we need this type of this, and it's not budgeted for. It's kind of like we kind of have to go digging for funds, and a lot of times it's hard to find, right? But as far as like the need, we would have to follow the MUTCD. Aaron, I know you and I kind of talked about, if this would be a good fit. Usually these stop signs are used at high trafficked intersections, blind intersections, around schools a lot of the times. I know we have one out at Borough Oak by the middle school. And so we do have these in a couple other spots, Vine Street and Grandview, for the rush hour school, morning and afternoons. So, I mean, that's something that we'd probably have to dig a little bit more into as far as what the MUTCD would require. But you can always go above and beyond what they recommend, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and then, well, just looking even at some traffic counts on WISDOT, so, Carmichael, where the one by the middle school, like 5,100 vehicles, Vine Street has, 5,000, so St. Croix Street has at one point 2,700, so it's probably half the amount of traffic than those other roads that we do have the flashing stop signs. And I know I did ask Jeff, there is a fair number of like non-compliance. He sent me like tickets. I don't actually know if it is this stop sign. I'd have to ask him. That people are just kind of running it. They do, write a fair number of tickets, but it's hard to say, like, is it because they don't see it or is it because they're choosing to not do it? So that's kind of the hard part too with like the flashing stop sign. I mean, maybe it'll make someone more likely to stop. We could also, some other solutions could be like one, there's no stop bar there right now. It could be like, let's throw on a stop bar, that makes it a little more obvious on
Which
the
would be
pavement.
paint.
Yeah, just paint.
Not a barrier. or
Yeah,
anything.
no, just paint. So that, makes it a little more obvious. You could even say stop ahead. You could put another sign for, stop sign ahead.
Because when we first installed them, we did put flags on them.
Right, the
for the
flag.
new,
Sure.
but that
Yeah.
was for,
And I know that your Traffic Safety Advisory Committee
Yeah.
discussed this and looked back at the history of, and I think the neighbors felt like they had worked for years to try and get that in and thought it was important because of what they witnessed. But yes, not necessarily, though I hear there's insurance claims and things like that that maybe didn't actually get ticketed. I don't know, or they didn't call the police, I'm not sure.
Right.
But,
Yeah, probably.
again, some of this anecdotal, of course. But have you ever had a report that those flashing, that's a nuisance to the neighbors? Do they create enough light that anyone's, I don't think
I
so.
haven't heard of any,
Yeah,
no.
no one's ever complained that, oh, that's annoying me or anything
Yeah,
like
no.
a street light would be. Okay.
and
Thank
the other
you.
option is, I know in some of the rural, county roads, they have that, the whirly bird that's on
Yes,
top, right?
Yes, yeah, I like that
Yeah.
one, actually. I know which
Yeah.
one I'm
Yeah.
thinking about.
So
Yeah.
there's
It
options.
catches
out
your
there.
attention. Well, I think that's part of it, is I do think that people that come in, they're on a township road, probably going over the speed limit maybe there. It's, 45 going down to 35, and then do they even recognize it? Because there's not a lot of street access, there's not cars backing in and out of it,
Right.
making it feel like, oh, this is a neighborhood. And suddenly you're in a busy part of town or a lot of homes there, school, park, et cetera. And I think that was one concern that I've heard, is that people don't even stop, or maybe they don't know it, or like you said, they may choose not to stop. They may know it's there and they think, I'm gonna cruise through. So the idea of the paint, that might be something that could actually be executed within the
Internally,
budget
yep.
of the painting, the
Yep.
stop bar, and even the wording to say stop ahead or something like that. So I think that would certainly bring some help.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to jump the queue at all with, the Traffic Safety Advisory. Usually go through public safety first and us, but I just thought, well, this is a fixture item that we could talk about today and, decide whether that's practical. And I do understand about the budget this year, that it's already. But this is an issue that has come up in terms of when we identify needs through the traffic safety reporter and, public safety approves it, we might, okay, where's the money for it?
Right.
And do we need to commit more money? So it's not nickel and diming your budget
Right.
to come up with these needed items that do enhance, and, the staff has agreed those are important for public safety. Would we have a fund or some money, a little additional money designated?
Designate,
So we're
right.
more flexible
Right.
during the year
Right.
for additional. So it's food for thought. Anyone else have a comment or suggestion about it?
Yeah, I appreciate the baby step thing, a square of paint or a sign that says stop ahead. I think back when we had that, when you helped design that online, anyone that wanted a stop sign, it used to be just call and Deb will answer and say, where do you want it? I think our city worked great on this whole remove the stop sign or keep it. I think there was communication, there was thought, everyone went and looked at it and thought, it should stay, and I think that was a great decision. But I don't want to go too far where neighbors are now saying, hey, how about a speed bump there? Or how about a roundabout? I want that now. Because, having an automobile license, the stop sign you have to legally stop at. Whether you're out in the middle of the country and you're going 60 miles an hour, you still have to stop. We shouldn't hide it or make it small or whatever. But on the other hand, if we go around and say, there's always we could improve it a little tiny bit if we threw $3,500 at this one. Maybe we need all 4 stop signs to be blinking, and then maybe down the road they should all be blinking. So I like the idea of maybe, it had a lot of attention, and now people are saying, let's do more. Maybe the more is just that. Take a look and see if a stop sign ahead would help, or the white line where everyone sees I have to stop here. Let's start there before we start kind of bringing stop signs into the next generation of AI. It'll start flashing if you're going more than 30, or that's all out there. But
well, we can always have communication with PD too about infractions or accidents that continue to occur there. If there is a need there,
Right.
I'm not saying that it should, but
Yeah.
there's got to be a need there before we start throwing dollars at a problem that
I agree.
may or may not exist, right?
Because I'm sure every stop sign in the city has been run by those teenage drivers that we
Right.
like to blame it.
Blame it on them, that's for sure.
Or people speed, and the sign's not gonna make people change their
Behavior.
that, on that, so. So that's kind of my thought on it.
Thank you.
I'm comfortable with this discussion and how it's moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, very good, and I do agree with you that we have our Traffic Safety Advisory Committee to help us make these decisions, and that's the direction we should go. So thank you for the discussion on it. Next item, and then is under new business, discussion of special assessment policy amendments.
Yes, well, I feel like I'm constantly bringing up changes to the special assessment policy, but I do feel like, I guess I'm just, the reasoning why I put this on the agenda is kind of to, foreshadow like the Locust Street design downtown. So, our assessment policy says we assess for 100% of new and 50% of replacement, or in commercial districts, 100% of replacement. So essentially, we'll just do downtown as an example, but it would be any commercial district kind of in the city, is they are responsible for 100% of the replacement cost of the sidewalk. So the difference between downtown is there is more sidewalk. There's more sidewalk width than maybe a business park that has, the standard width is 5 feet for sidewalk. And downtown, it's probably closer to 10. And then when we look at doing some improvements to the downtown, we might be looking at widening the sidewalk. We might be looking at like special concrete material, like colored concrete, or, something to, more special in the downtown area. And so the policy doesn't really say anything about how to handle those situations. So I'm really just wanted to get the conversation started and kind of get like a sense of, it seems like we should be putting something a little more detailed in the assessment policy about those topics. So like one option could be, regardless of the width, we only assess for 5 feet wide. Or, in the downtown district, the businesses chose to be there. Maybe there's an advantage of having the wider sidewalk for them, so they should get assessed the full width of the sidewalk. Or is there, maybe they get assessed the full width, but if we choose like a decorative paving material, then they just have to pay for like the standard paving material. And then another item is just the service life. It's almost a separate topic, but I have seen things in some other assessment policies where it's like we don't reassess. So say, we just replaced this year the sidewalk in front of Dick's. But say we come with a reconstruction project in 10 years and we just want to redo the whole thing again. It's like, do they get assessed twice? Do they get assessed 100% again after it's only been 10 years? So then there's kind of like a service life of accessible items that I've been trying to put a little more research into. Like maybe there's a project that the city is choosing to narrow a road or widen a road, but maybe they had done a project, again, I'm just 10 years ago, Does it make sense that the owners, because you're kind of doing a project for maybe an other reason outside of just the condition of it, is there some sort of prorated rate or, based on like the typical concrete curb is 30-year lifespan? If the project replaces the curb in 20 years, then you kind of just pay a prorated rate, if that makes sense. So same with sidewalk or any of the accessible items. So those are kind of the two main topics, but yeah, the main one was trying to maybe get ahead of the Locust Street design. I just don't want our assessment policy to really like drive the decision making, and that's where I thought there could be, maybe an owner, and another, thing is sidewalk versus trail and, 11th Street. Well, yeah, I'm gonna just vote for the trail because I don't want to pay for new sidewalk, So
Because trail isn't assessed.
Yeah, because trail isn't really assessed in any way, shape, or form, even though sidewalk is not also defined anywhere. So, yeah, a lot of topics there, but so just wanting to get any comments to kind of see what direction we should or shouldn't go, and we can just leave it as is and see what happens, but, yeah.
Have you had specific comments, or you're just anticipating?
I'm
or starting to-
anticipating, yes.
Could be. Just
Yeah.
envisioning what the scope is.
Yeah,
We're
I
seeing
have
a
gotten
great
questions, what are, on Locust Street, what are the assessments gonna be, so obviously it's gonna be an important
People are
factor when
thinking
we
about
get
it.
to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've all been walked through communities that have more of a streetscape area, you have some benches on some decorative concrete, and you got a spot here. So it's just kind of cleaning up some of that language to get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
Where,
basically.
because I can, like I said, I don't want to, all of a sudden, an assessment to a downtown business is $20,000. I'm just pulling it. Because then, like you said, then they're going to say, well, I don't want that. And then it kind of dictates what the design is. And is that what's best for the community long-term?
I don't think they get to say they don't want it, but anyway, go ahead, Sarah.
Well,
Lorraine, sorry.
It's true.
Well, I think it's super smart to be getting in front of it and having these conversations. I mean, and it is, as you've been looking around, have you seen what some of the other
I
communities?
haven't seen a lot from the
Okay.
ones I've looked at. I haven't seen anything about decorative. It doesn't mean that cities aren't making decisions, because
Right.
just like us, each project's unique. We
Sure.
can kind of choose how we want to apply it. So I really haven't found anything specific about a sidewalk width being assessed. But I can definitely, that's from a handful of communities that I was able to pull the policy from online and look at, so.
And do you want to have something in place before, like the subcommittee's going to be added to do the locust?
No, I don't think it needs to
Okay.
be, yeah, there's
So
not
we-
necessarily a rush, so, yeah, you guys, I can keep looking into it, if you guys just think, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, I could just keep looking into it and actually propose some revisions.
I certainly am in favor of that, and I'll maybe spend some time Googling it too and
Right,
see if
yeah.
I can find anything that would be helpful.
Right.
Do you have any input, Mike? Any comments?
No, I do appreciate kind of the heads up of this is gonna be, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill type thing. And as we beautify downtown more and more and more, it'd be good to have that set. And the one thing I don't want, not that you were mentioning that, but I don't want this to lead to, how do we get the business owners or homeowners, wherever it is, how do we get them more and more off the hook and the city taxpayer takes a bigger portion? I don't want that to be the driving reason we make decisions on the width or the whatever. That being said, I mean, there's play both ways. We're not gonna, pin every business owner and say, we're gonna have, stamped concrete everywhere and fountains and just wait and we'll just send you the bill, don't worry about it. But at the same time, they are downtown, and as we do make improvements, whether it be wider or nicer or whatever, hopefully that benefits them too. So, but
Yep.
that's my only point. I don't want to keep rolling stuff back and put it on the burden of all taxpayers, and get too narrowly defined where
Right.
we're, we're looking out for, we're picking winners and losers in that
Right.
thing, so.
Thank you, because anytime we
Right.
change those special assessments, people who had to pay them before now are seeing someone else get a better deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's been changed many times, pardon me?
I was just gonna, and then led me,
Yeah.
my question was when we did those little bump outs, and I know that part of that was state funded, what did the business owners pay with those decorative bump outs? Nothing, because it was state? Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I
there was
wasn't
no
here.
On
so I
assessment.
Second
was
Street.
not sure.
On
Right,
Second
that
Street,
large
yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Well, so my comment on that would be thinking of, and I know there were several homeowners on Green Street, just take a recent example, who had just had a new driveway put in.
Yep.
And that was ripped out as part of the project, and then put, it's like their money was to the wind a little bit, because they were forced to comply with, they can't say, no, you can't touch it, I already did it. So that's a private homeowner that had to bear that price and fall under the special assessment. And I also own a property that paid $30,000 to $35,000 for a special assessment, and that was in the 90s, maybe 2000, so that was a lot of money then. And the engineering firm that we contracted wanted to remove that turn lane into the YMCA and the adjacent office building. And we had paid for it out of our own pocket. And, a new engineer coming in from the outside contractor thought, well, we don't need that. There's not enough traffic for it. It's like, well, that came out of our
Right.
hard-earned money. So again, if there is a burden, there was a burden put on us as property owners of that business to pay for that turn lane because there was traffic coming down Vine Street, and the new YMCA was open, et cetera. And it soon became evident that we needed that there, and that burden was placed on us as private property owners. So it does come with the territory a little bit. And so I lean that direction a little bit, that there's a benefit brought to those property owners or business owners. And so even though it may hurt a bit, and again, if we do have outside funding, state grants and so on, that can help us pay for some of those enhancements that perhaps, so I do understand what you're saying, that you're trying to help define it, so that they're at least paying for what would be kind of routine things.
Right.
And then extra enhancements, colored concrete, stamped, et cetera, perhaps could come out of the other budgets, so.
Right.
And I do think downtown is a different ball of wax, so thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yep, okay,
And we can have more input and discussion in the community, for sure.
yep.
Okay, so no action on that item, but now to old business. We've touched on this a little bit higher up, but now let's get a report from you, Mike. Discussion and possible action to approve the letter of engagement with Bolton and Mink to repair the 6th Street steps.
Yeah, so Aaron reached out to Bolton and Mank to get a LOE for engineering services for this, just because it's a very unique project. And so they came back with a total cost of $24,500. $2,700 of that can be taken off because it's for a different project that the mayor's working on. So it would be, what is that, 21,800. So that would be for topographical survey and design of the replacement. So basically what we're looking at is there's three options, right? So there's replacement, which it sounds like everyone is on board with that. There is just permanent closure, where we don't do anything and just spend $0 and put a big Jersey barrier up top and down below and say closed for the next 50 years. Or option 3 would just be to remove it. And so replacement, obviously, by the time you factor in all the engineering costs, so on and so forth, it's around $200,000. Removal of stairs and regrade and seed is $30,000. And like I previously stated, this cost or this expense would be eligible through the stormwater utility, seeing that it was stormwater that caused the erosion and the eventual failure of the stairs. I still think there's maybe possibilities I want to explore possibilities of just mud jacking the certain portions that have been undermined, and maybe there's a lower cost solution instead of ripping it out completely. I still think it's worth looking at. But anyways, on the issue sheet tonight is basically approval of the LOE with Bolton and Mank to move forward with reconstruction of the stairs.
Yeah, so they'll put a plan set together that we could bid out essentially.
Correct.
And I think, they made some assumptions based on a quick site review and some pictures. So yeah, they could dive in probably to more of if it makes sense to do a repair option or not.
Yeah.
The mud jacking, but.
Just want to verify then that 22,000 roughly, that is part of the $200,000 estimate, or this is on top of that?
It was part of it.
It was part of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be
I
included
was
with
trying
that.
to-
Yep.
Okay.
Roll it all together.
So yeah,
Have
17,300,
some
45.
So that would be the engineering, evaluation, design, et
Yes.
cetera.
Yep.
And
So,
they would-
yeah, so it'd be
okay.
$21,800 for Bolton and Mink, and that's a not to exceed number.
Okay,
Okay.
and that's all you're looking for right now?
Correct.
If we decide, and it does seem like we have that consensus, that we'd like to find out more, and if it can be done for that dollar amount that is
Yeah.
potential.
Yeah, so if you were to approve the LOE with Bolton and Mink, they would do more of a, more in-depth site visit, surveying. They would put together a plan set that would be, either it's, like I said, mud jacking and concrete, or if we need to take out sections based on kind of a more deep dive as far as how bad it's been undermined, how far it goes into the hillside. And the plan set would be reflective of that. And we could maybe
Yeah.
put together a couple of different options to bring back to Public Works Committee and say, full replacements could cost X, there's other option that might cost Y, and go from there. But it would get a structural engineer on board, helping us out making those decisions.
Yeah. Well, I think since we decided that we don't want them to disappear, that this is the logical next
Yeah.
step. So I'll move to approve the letter of engagement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move forward with the letter of engagement with Bolton and Mink to evaluate Sixth Street steps. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. Very good. All right, well, that's great. It's been about a year since it was closed, wasn't it? So we had made that commitment that we were going to evaluate it, so thank you for taking these steps. Okay, so now we have a few project updates here to end our agenda. O'Neill Road Street reconstruction.
Yes, I am gonna do the updates. So the first one, O'Neill Road, so that bid opening was on April 1st, and we received 5 bids, which is really great. The project was awarded to Haas and Sons at the April 7th council meeting. They also did the Vine and Green Street construction project, so we're very familiar with their team, and so it'll be nice to see the familiar faces. They haven't given us a schedule yet, but we did put that they need to begin by June 9th in the contract language. So if anything, they'll be starting kind of the beginning of June, if not sooner. So we're just kind of working on getting the contract signed and things like that right now.
Right.
Any questions on that one?
Nope.
All right. 11th Street. So that project was also bid out in January and awarded to A1 Excavating. The tree removals were already completed in March. So they had to, based on, it was a federal funded project, so there was some requirements on when they had to do the tree removal by. I think they needed to do it before April 1st for the bats. So they got that done. So obviously there was some activity and, it was very quick, from when like the signage went up, and it all just happened very quick. But now we'll be taking a rest and they'll be starting the actual removals here in about 2 weeks. So kind of ramping up the project, at the end of April.
Okay.
And then their schedule has it going to being completed with pavement markings like the beginning of September. So I noted to them that school starts before that. It would be, we'll see how the weather is this year, see how the project progresses. Hopefully it'll at least maybe be paved, maybe not signage and striping done or something like that, but we'll see.
Easy access.
No promises.
Could I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah.
First of all, that closure or work there will move traffic over to Grandview and 17th
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yep.
And that's happened other times when Carmichael's work done and so on. It's a frequent alternate route. And I know in the past, sometimes you have put in a 3-way stop at 17th and Cooley. Do you anticipate doing that, or what do you
I
think
guess we
there?
didn't have that in the plans.
Okay.
I don't, we could, we could add that. We could see how it goes.
Sure.
But
Well, it's interesting because I know there have been residents that
Yes.
want something like that to be long-term, and I
know it.
continue to be amazed when I drive there, even like at 8 a.m., there's not a car in sight.
Right.
Sometimes, I'm at
Right.
17th,
Right.
right by the flooring store and the auto body shop, and it's like, there's nobody there.
Right.
The other times, you definitely have to wait a while to get out and to make your turn. So, okay, just a question there. Thank you for
Yep.
that. Certainly, I'm sure it would help, and the police staff can help with signage for speed limit, kind of control.
Yeah.
Because people do tend to speed up when they have to take an alternate route.
Right.
They're like, I'm in a hurry to
Yeah.
get somewhere.
Yeah, we should make a note to Jeff to
Yeah, I
maybe
can-
throw up the speed trailer kind of that first
Yep.
week
Yeah,
of,
just
first
help
couple
people
weeks
know.
of construction.
yeah, for sure.
I have been contacted by a resident on 11th Street, and they probably fall in the category of wanting more markings at 11th Street, and unfortunately, that 11th and Laurel intersection, there's a lot of rolling through the stop signs there. I mean, you've heard
Yeah.
those comments and concerns before. I mean, there was actually a high school student on a bike hit there. They were riding in the east striped
Yeah.
Okay.
supposed
Sure.
bike lane.
Okay.
And had to go out into the main street because it was trash day, and there was a dumpster out in the bike lane, and so they went out a little bit, and a car did
Clip
bump
them,
them.
no.
There was an incident, I think it was last fall. At any rate, or maybe in the summer. So there's definitely concern, and I've had people ask me, well, what else is going to be done there? And I know that the engineering assessment is that narrower street will bring down speed. Is there anything in the plans, because I didn't notice it, but I may not have the eye for the detail, for any speed marking signs or anything like that, or that would have to be added later from the city?
Yeah,
if it's still
we
needed?
didn't do any speed radar signs, like the flashing.
Yes, okay, so it's not included.
I did have them do like the bigger stop sign,
Okay.
so
Sure.
usually the standard is like a 30-inch, and so I had them at least up it to 36-inch.
Sure,
Yeah.
Which
Great.
really is usually only needed for like multi-lane roads.
right.
So it'll kind of be, it'll be a bigger stop sign.
Yeah.
And then I think the narrowing the road will have the trail, so,
That'll
the
definitely improve
biker,
safety.
yeah, so,
To get the pedestrians and the
Yeah.
bikers off of the street.
so,
And similar to the 11th and Bear intersection that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's one of those things where let's build it
yeah.
and assess
Sure.
the behaviors, and we can always make modifications in
Yes.
the future. We have our armadillos that we can throw up for speed, and
Yep.
if there are adjustments that we need to make after it's built and we kind of get through a cycle, it's like we're still seeing high speeds or we're still seeing this or that, we can always make adjustments in the future. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where, again, solving problems that may or may not exist, and we don't know yet until, because it is going to be a very much narrow. I mean,
It'll be
it's going to be a
different,
narrow road.
yeah.
And so, I mean,
Yeah, and some residents are concerned about that, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cars that go through there.
We'll see. Let's just
So
see.
hopefully it'll certainly be safer having that bike multi-use trail
Yeah.
there. And I know there's been numerous speed studies there,
Yeah.
and a lot of times the general driving is not that fast, but there's always one or two
Oh, yeah,
that have a
always
loud
one or two.
muffler, or they're gunning it, or they kind of roll through a stop sign. And that really worries people when
Yeah.
they see that. And you can understand,
Oh, yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
that, their neighborhood and near the school and so on. So thank you for that feedback, and I understand what you're saying, that we'll see how things go
yeah.
afterwards. Appreciate it. Okay, on to Carmichael Road.
Okay, so this one, so I was actually reached out to by someone at WISDOT. They were asking if we were willing to provide a letter of support. So they have already submitted a congressionally directed spending request for exit 2 interchange. So it's just for design. So I was told it was about $5.5 million that WISDOT is asking Senator Baldwin's office to be, they have a certain amount of money they can just basically put towards the project. She's very supportive of, WISDOT and infrastructure, so they have submitted that, and we did put together, kind of worked with the mayor on a support letter, and so we would hear, the funds wouldn't be available till 2026, and no matching funds for like this phase have been requested from the city, so it's just all state funds right now. They would work on the design and look into property acquisition, and then we'd go from there. So I haven't heard, I don't have timelines or anything, but, the fact that they're at least doing this, and I have been told it was the only request they put in, where in the past they have put in multiple, they have gotten one or two, so it sounds like it's pretty likely.
Okay.
But I guess we'll see where things are at. And so just some news that there's actually a little bit of
exciting.
movement basically on that. So, yeah.
That's very
Very
exciting.
exciting.
So
Just-
5 million all for design.
Yes.
Oh,
I know, isn't that
I think
incredible?
right now
That
it's
is
like
incredible.
$50 million project.
oh my gosh.
Yep. So,
So
it's a
this-
very big project.
So
Yeah.
we were talking earlier about the Carmichael Street that
Yes.
goes north from there,
Yep.
but you're just talking
That-
about what happens at exit 2 and if they improve or
Yeah.
change that, more
Yep.
lanes. And certainly we, like we mentioned earlier, we do have some property owners that are interested in a project there, but we as a city can't really move forward until we know what the state's going to do.
Yes, exactly. And basically, the section we talked about, maybe doing the mill and overlay, that would literally be completely all redone with the
Yes.
interchange project,
Sure.
so.
Okay.
Sure.
So that's kind of why we're like waiting, or just the Band-Aid approach, and
Yeah.
hope that this project comes sooner rather than later, and now it seems more likely versus just kind of having no idea, so.
That's exciting.
So the scope
Yeah.
would be the two entrances, the two exits.
Yes.
And the crossing, the bridge itself?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it did spread a little bit, like actually Crestview intersection was different and Cooley, because essentially
Okay.
you got off, the exit ramp was like off, I think, on Cooley Road essentially.
Okay.
Like it kind of gets widened.
Oh.
Yeah, there's definitely some modifications. There's a preferred alternative out there, and I can send it to anyone or post it online.
Wow, interesting.
But
That's,
So-
it's a very busy intersection that, there's not too many
Yeah.
places in the state where you have a 3-lane left turn lane.
yes,
And, over by
Right.
the McDonald's
Yeah.
yep.
and,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they
Yeah.
said even in their letter of support, it's like the fifth, or one of the top 5
Yes,
busiest
it
intersections
is.
or interchanges in the
it
state.
is, absolutely, I've heard
Yeah,
that
so
too.
it's very busy.
Well, that's great news, and thank you for all your persistent work on
Yeah.
applications and so on that you
Mm-hmm.
guys have done
Yeah.
for other grants and.
Well, I actually have one more update.
Okay, let's hear it.
So it didn't make the agenda because I did get a letter today that we got a grant, $1,098,202 for the Hanley Road Trail.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's what the
This is-
handout.
Right,
The map I handed out was part of the grant application, so it's through the carbon reduction program. And, yeah, so we basically got money to make that trail connection.
That's so exciting.
That is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
really
we applied
gonna,
last June, so we were like kinda
Waiting and
losing
waiting.
hope, or,
Waiting.
but it sounds like, yeah,
So the yellow part is what?
Yes.
The yellow part
so
is what
really
we did.
closing a nice loop.
Yeah, that's a missing link, yeah.
Yeah,
that is, 'cause that's such a
really-
busy area and it's nice for people to be able to ride here and there because there's certainly a lot of housing
Mm-hmm.
in that area as well as all the commercial.
So that's
And
the
retail.
dollar amount, so then,
We'll have to match. It's
Okay.
a more 80-20 match. From the infrastructure CIP, it'd probably be about 475,000 we would still have to put
Okay.
in.
And when are you?
So,
when
and
is-
then they'll reach out to talk about the
Timeline.
logistics, yeah. So, the sunset date, which is like the end date was like 6 years from this year, so, I don't know how quickly or how they'll wanna disperse the projects. And so we'll wait till they reach out and kinda see what they're thinking.
But
But-
it would be administered probably through the state, was that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
I mean,
Similar
it's
to how-
federal money,
Yeah,
so I'm thinking
it's
it would be
usually
similar.
administered through the state, so similar to the STP urban, like we just
the
went through
11th
with
Street
11th Street.
process,
Yeah, But yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Hudson
fantastic.
is getting noticed.
Yeah,
Great.
I know.
Good,
so-
well, good work
Yeah.
on, again, all the applications
Yeah.
and
Yep.
bringing forward the ideas. Sometimes I know we've had to hire outside design firms
Mm-hmm.
to help with it, but you guys have done quite a bit of that work too. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Yep, this
Thank
one
you.
was all us.
It was all you.
I do say
Yay.
so myself.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's
Great.
exciting.
That is very exciting. Great news. Okay, is there any items or communication for future agenda?
I guess the last thing that I have is just a reminder for anybody that is watching an hour into this meeting that we're going to have a Urban Forestry Board is having a Arbor Day tree planting event. It'll most likely be from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock on the 26th. Location yet to be determined. So, but it'll probably be probably in a park. It all depends on how many trees are donated to the city through the Daybreak Rotary Tree Sale. Kind of determine the location, but. Hopefully hear back sometime here in the next day or two, put together a flyer, get it posted on our website, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, come.
It's always
Be
fun.
nice weather.
That's great.
It's always fun.
Very good.
So, yeah.
Great. Okay, anyone have anything else, Mike or Sarah?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.